Okay, I wonder, do I have any sort of audio going here? Don't turn off the mic. Can you? Where is the microphone? Where can I check my settings? Don't click the go live thing if it doesn't tell you what's going to go live, huh? Feedback. There's that. I don't even know if people can hear me. I mean, I see little green lights. Okay, can you hear me though, Jonathan? That's the big question I'm going for right now. Because I don't know if it's using the correct microphone and I don't see a way to change it. Okay, well, I'm just going to go with it. All right. So as you can see, I done braided my beard. This is not something I'm going to do regularly because first off, it feels like there's a tiny little man clinging to each of my braids and sort of tugging gently on my chin face. And it's a little bit uncomfortable, which obviously is something girls can live with all the damn time. Also, I don't know if you can see it, but it feels a little uneven. Like this one's hanging down, this one's hanging a little to the left, which is something that I would have to either learn to live with or get good at making sure everything was super even. But it's something I wanted to show off. I put in a small amount of effort to get this done. And my cat Sasha hung out with me the entire time and did not injure me or anything like that. So, but I wanted to show you guys while I had it. I'm a Viking now. So, do I have anything to talk about? I could ramble about any number of things. I got shit I can say. But I don't know if anybody's really interested to hear me insult, what's his name, C.S. Lewis. Decent writer, shitty person, things like that. Mostly this is to show off my badass braiding skills and the little rubber bands that I have wrapped around the end of my face hairs. You were going to watch Minecraft videos and you chose me instead. I don't know whether to feel insulted or not. That's a hell of a thing. That's something to throw at a guy, on a Thursday night. The thing about C.S. Lewis, I mean, I read the shit out of the Chronicles of Narnia when I was a kid and did not realize it was a Christian allegory until I was in high school. Fuck you. I'm not going to start a podcast. What the fuck do you think I am? A white middle-aged guy? Fuck off, geek. Yeah. The thing about being autistic is you don't necessarily get metaphors and so on. You tend to be a little bit more literal. So I didn't realize Narnia was supposed to be an allegory. Like Aslan is lion, Jesus, and so on. But my insulting take on Lewis would actually be about his lunatic, liar, or lord thing. Do I look like a 20-year-old who wants to play Fortnite and scream about Jews? No, I will not set up a Twitch channel. Fuck you, geek. Lunatic, liar, or lord. Oh, man. Okay, so for those who aren't familiar, Lunatic, Liar, Lord was C.S. Lewis whining about people who said that they like Jesus but didn't think he was the Son of God. So he came up with his, the trilemma, as it's called. A dilemma, lemma means argument. Okay, so a dilemma would be 2 arguments. A trilemma would be 3 arguments. So being on the horns of a dilemma means you have to choose option A or option B, and you're kind of stuck because they're both kind of bad. In philosophy, setting up a dilemma is an incredibly useful way to argue. Because if you can narrow down the entire universe to two possibilities, and then you can argue from those two possibilities to the things you want to have happen, then it's a very effective way to argue. Um, in fact, there's a specific set of logical steps called union. No, no, not union. Disjunct negation, getting rid of the or, as in A or B. You say A or B. If A, then X. If B, then X. Therefore X. Right. Um, this is like really popular in philosophy because it's really easy to narrow down the entire universe to two possibilities if you say A or not A. So if A is true, then the thing I want to be true is true. If A is false, then the thing I want to be true is true. So that's why it's really popular. The trilemma means narrowing down the entire universe to three possibilities. It's not popular just because A or not A is really easy to argue that covers the entire universe of possibilities. The trilemma, not so much. But before we actually get to the argument, I want to insult C.S. Lewis for being a naive, spoiled, privileged little shit. Because what I think he didn't realize is that the people he was talking to wanted him to leave them alone. Okay? We're talking about, mid 20th century Britain in like the immediate aftermath of World War II or during World War II or maybe during the 30s. I mean, can't remember exactly. I'm going to look up when C.S. Lewis lived just to be absolutely sure. But this was, early 20th century, mid 20th century, born 1898, died 1963. Okay, that's C.S. Lewis. A spoiled, rich white boy. So yeah, when people said, I like your Jesus, I just don't think he was the son of God, what they were mostly saying, I think, was, oh God, please leave me alone and don't hurt me. You could totally fuck up my life and get me fired, right? That is what I think people were saying to him. But he took them literally because he was, an ignorant, privileged little shit, and thus made his argument. His argument was, no, you can't say that because Jesus was claiming to be the Son of God. And you can't claim to be the Son of God and be a good person unless you actually are the Son of God. Okay. And so his trilemma was lunatic, liar, or Lord. If, Jesus came down and didn't said all the things he did, either he was completely insane, lunatic, or he was a cynical, manipulative piece of shit just looking to get rich, or he actually was the Son of God. If he was a lunatic, you can't claim that he was a great teacher and thinker. If he was a liar, you can't claim that he was a good man. Therefore, if you actually like what Jesus had to say, you must admit that he was the Son of God. Yeah. Lewis and Tolkien were, yes, they were both part of the same social group, both, conservative Christian types. But I think Tolkien was a Catholic. I don't know about Lewis. Screwtape Letters makes me think he was Catholic. So let's see. C.S. Lewis, was he Catholic? British writer and lay theologian, according to the whatchamacallit. Oxford University. Let's do Catholic. No, Tolkien hoped he would join. No, he was just an Anglican, which is Catholic light. All right. So anyway, where was I? So that was his basic argument: lunatic, liar, or Lord. You cannot claim Jesus was a great teacher and thinker and also say he was not the Son of God, okay? Because he claimed to be the Son of God. Now the thing is, one of the big problems with his trilemma. First off, Jesus wasn't a great teacher or thinker. He was, the Sermon on the Mount, it opens with the platitudes. Oh, sorry, they call them the Beatitudes. He didn't do anything phenomenally wonderful there. And then other times, he looks really fucking stupid and crazy. Like the bit with the fig tree. Before he goes in to, go nuts on the money changers in the temple, he sees a fig tree. And I think it was Matthew makes it clear that it was not the season for figs. Jesus walks up to the fig tree and says, I want a fig. And the fig tree says, I'm a tree and it's not the season. And so Jesus says, fuck you, bitch. You are cursed. Then he goes in, he clears the temple, then he comes out, and the fig tree has withered to its very root. Now, laying aside the fact that people don't have the magic power to wither fig trees, this makes Jesus look like a petty, crazy piece of shit, right? Because he walks up to a tree when it's not the season for figs, gets pissy because there's no figs, and then curses the tree, right? So, I mean, the lunatic part of the trilemma is looking pretty good. Now, alternatively, if you take the Gospels not to be actual history, but instead to be like extended meta parables, then what you get, not Matthew, Mark, I think, had the parable of the fig tree. Let's look that up real quick. Because yeah, it shows up in Mark. So Mark introduced it because he was the first of the Gospel writers. Anyway, the parable of the fig tree, it's not about actual fig trees. It's about the fact that it is no longer the season for the Jewish temple. Because Mark was writing after the temple, he was writing for an audience that wanted some explanation for why God would let that happen. It is no longer the season for the temple. The fig tree has withered. The temple has withered. It is time for a different kind of religion. So if you're looking at the Bible not as actual things that happened, then it makes a little bit more sense that way. Anyway, the big problem with Lewis's trilemma, you don't bother reading the Bible. It's a piece of shit. It's boring and it's stupid. It is a collection of people getting pissy and annoyed with each other, where it's not just god awful fables and fiction. It's a long, shitty read. Instead, you should go with the Scathing Atheist, Puzzle in a Thunderstorm, guys. They're doing a thing called Bible Piece Theater, where they take the Bible and they turn it into comedy sketches. It's a much, much better way to go through it, because they skip over the completely pointless stuff and just turn, the story of Samson and Delilah into it's a lot funnier. It's a lot more worthwhile. All right. So the trilemma. It doesn't cover the entire universe of possibilities. Lunatic, liar, and Lord are not the only possibilities there. Although, the fig tree makes lunatic a lot better. But the fact is, lunatic and liar are both perfectly acceptable positions. I mean, a person could be genuinely convinced that they were the Son of God. Be completely nuts on that score. But otherwise be, a decent individual, a deep and powerful thinker, and able to come up with moral proclamations. You can be a little bit nuts, a little bit weird, and otherwise a decent person. And liar? Yeah, I mean, the fact is, if you want to get away with the scam of leading a cult, the best way to lead a cult is to do everything you can to, in public, appear to be, the genuine, upstanding, moral guy, and save the stealing of money and fucking children for, hidden away things. Sort of like the Catholic Church does now, for the most part. They're not very good at hiding the theft or fucking. Yeah. I thrive at making people uncomfortable, Justin. I'm not good at making people feel comfortable, is another way of putting that. So anyway, lunatic and liar, they both work just fine. But like I said, it doesn't cover the entire universe of possibilities. I have come up with 3 other possibilities, which I don't think covers the rest of the universe. It's just they're the 3 I came up with, and they alliterate too. Myth, mistaken, and misunderstood. Right? I mean, this is just 3 more possibilities. Like misunderstood. What if you came along, you had this guy named Josh, who said some stuff, whether he was the violent rebel or the mystic woo-woo guy. There's no way to get a single Jesus out of the Bible. Whatever type of guy you're talking about, it's entirely possible that you could have had some whether a firebrand or a mystic ascetic, whatever you wanted, could have come along and said these things without ever saying he was actually the Son of God. He could have said any sort of stuff talking about how important he was or how important his cause was or how we are all the children of God. And people just misunderstood him. Um, or later on, after he died, they went ahead and turned him into the Son of God, even though he never actually said that shit. That's all entirely possible. In fact, that's the most popular of the Jesus was a real person argument among atheist groups that I've encountered. Is the idea that Jesus never said any of the really out there "I'm the Son of God" shit, but was later turned into this God figure. So that's one possibility, that people just misunderstood what Jesus was saying. Another is mistaken. Um, there you go, axe wielding Jesus. That mistaken. It is possible to think you are a special, wonderful prophet or son of God sort of person without being insane. Case in point, every Christian. I mean, they all think that they are literally talking with the all-powerful creator of the universe in their heads at all time. I mean, it's not really a huge leap to go from there to being like, I am like super special. Oh wait, they already think they're super special, to being extra more special on top of that. Right. People do come up with ridiculous bullshit without being insane. I mean, calling yourself the literal son of God or God in the flesh might be pushing it a bit, but I don't think it's beyond the pale, especially when you're talking about like 2,000 years ago and people were already completely bumfuck ignorant about most shit, right? I mean, it's not a huge stretch to say that somebody could come up with the idea that because he flipped a coin and got heads 10 times in a row, that maybe he's actually a deity or something. People do buy into their bullshit. Faith healers and psychics and tarot card readers and all, they believe, not all of them, but a lot of them do believe what they're selling. They honestly believe the lies. Okay, again, Son of God, a bit further out there than your typical lie, but entirely possible. And finally, myth. Maybe Jesus never actually existed. I mean, we have no confirmation of this Jesus guy outside of the Bible. I mean, the closest you get is there were Christians in the 2nd century, or the thing that everybody acknowledges was a forgery in not Josephus, Flavius Josephus, the Testimonium Flavianum, it's called. He's the only guy. Even he's not writing in the lifetime of Jesus. He's writing in the 90s AD. He wrote a sentence that everybody recognizes as a forgery, who has even a scrap of academic integrity. But other than that, we have nothing for Jesus. He apparently showed up, started a cult that sprang up everywhere there were Jews around the Mediterranean, but he never got noticed by anyone. It's entirely possible that this Jesus character never existed. That this mythology grew up in the decades of the late 1st century AD. Or even mid 1st century AD, I should say, is that the mythology, this new religion started up, this new cult, worshiping a person who never existed. And then he got inserted into history in a process called euhemerization, named after a Greek author, Euhemerus, who said, hey, the Greek gods were all real people. They were all not magic, but they were kings and heroes and so on. And thus he wrote a history of Greece and sort of inserted all the Greek gods and so on into him. So euhemerization, it's sort of the opposite of a real person being turned into a god, is a god being turned into a real person. So those are just 3 more possibilities to point out that Lewis's trilemma is garbage. It doesn't cover the entire universe of possibilities. Altizer. Altizer. That sounds very familiar. I think I've heard Robert M. Price talk about him a lot. It's been a while since I listened to Robert M. Price, though, since he turned out to be incredibly racist and far right wing. But yeah, Altizer. Robin Hood, probably a myth. King Arthur, likewise, probably a myth, though there may have been a core there. Likewise, Jesus, a mythological character, absolutely, but there may be bits and pieces of real historical people buried in the Jesus story. There were like the first century. There was never any time of peace in the Roman Empire. There were rebellions going on all the time, and Israel was, or in Judea, a particularly tumultuous province. Um, so there was Simon Bar Kokhba. Um, uh, uh, there were a whole bunch of rebellions and rebels, and obviously wandering prophets, ascetic mystics, and random ass preachers, and so on. There was never a time when there wouldn't have been plenty of fodder for a Jesus type character. Um, and the Jewish religion was already primed for someone like that because they had a whole bunch of not necessarily prophecies, but sort of beliefs primed about a coming another Moses or Messiah. And Moses was another person who probably didn't exist. Almost certainly. I mean, the Exodus never happened, so therefore there was probably no Moses leading the Exodus that never happened. Anyway, that's my take on C.S. Lewis. Not a particularly powerful thinker, decent writer, good writer, maybe. It's hard to tell. It's been, almost a century now since he wrote his stuff. So I mean it gets kind of dated, right? Decent writer, not a great thinker. And not very perceptive when it came to his fellow human beings. Just this spoiled little brat who thought that people should believe the way he did because he wanted them to. That's my thoughts on Jesus or on Lewis. And his trilemma, complete garbage, worth ignoring. William Hamilton. I thought let's see, William Hamilton. I've never heard of this guy. Let's see, William, a Christian atheist, meaning an atheist who had been a Christian once upon a time. Let's see, probably not that. Let's see, educator. Nope, that's a bit too early. Was he a contemporary of Lewis? Terry Pratchett is fucking phenomenal. There's no comparison. Terry Pratchett just blows C.S. Lewis out of the water. He's a much better writer and a much deeper thinker. And much more aware of the people around him and what they actually go through. C.S. Lewis is goddamn amazing. There we go. Thank you, Justin. There's a surprisingly large number of William Hamiltons on Wikipedia. Oh, that's a blank article. Oh, because you forgot you cut off the end of the parentheses. Okay. 1924 to 2012, theologian, proponent of death of God and is God dead movement. Oh, died in 2012. Born blah, 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 blah. Radical Theology and the Death of God. Oh, Time Magazine published its Is God Dead article that same year. Doesn't say anything about a feud with C.S. Lewis, though. That is a disappointing. Also doesn't call him an atheist. Calls him a theologian. All right. Anyway, Christian atheism, death of God theology. I could. Would Christian atheism be, let's see, I'm just going to spitball and guess that Christian atheism means people who accept Christianity but are atheism. Form of cultural Christianity and ethic system drawing its beliefs and practices from the life of Jesus. Yeah, Yeah. I would not be a fan of Christian atheism just because Christianity is awful. There's no way to get anything decent out of the New Testament. It is full of some pretty awful, awful shit. If you're getting good things out of the Bible, it's because you are bringing good things to it. Um, but that's religion in general. Religion is just you talking to yourself, bouncing ideas off the wall, and coming up with stuff you think is decent. I mean, you're talking to God, you're just talking to yourself, and that's what it all boils down to. All right. Well, that's about 20 minutes of rambling. I'm going to go ahead and get something to drink because my throat is dry. And then I'm going to undo my braids because, again, the little men are hanging onto my chin. All right. It was nice hanging out with you, Geek Justin. I'm going to go ahead and take off now. Vikings.